Right, we are live. Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome back to the Kiwi Lads channel. We are back for day two of the second test match. Steve Smith and Alex Carey currently at the batting crease, and Smith has been there for quite some time now. 149 balls faced, very recently coming out to the middle after a very good over from Joe Root, getting the two wickets of Travis Head and Cam Green within three balls of each other. But Ben Stokes, I'd have to say, he won't be hugely happy with the way that his side did bowl throughout that first day. They had Usman Khawaja under pressure, not allowing him to score too many runs in quick succession. They had a couple drop catches, though, which I think has hurt them a little bit here, England. But the rain, it was raining throughout the morning, doesn't seem to be doing so at the moment, although it is quite dark in the background. So there may still be a few spots that will be about throughout this day of a cricket. And I dad says, Pat, welcome in. Hope you are doing all right. And Hello says, no, Mum, Black Ferns leading 26 donut. Now, second half. I did see that they've got off to a brilliant start in that matchup. Of course, the under 20s, they're going to be playing up against France in the near future, the Kiwis. I think it currently Australia are taking on Ireland in the under 20 side of things as well. But Alex Carey looks like he will be facing the first ball of the day. The floodlights are on at the moment, and we have not even seen a singular ball bowled for today. Robinson, he has picked up one wicket. We saw Root get two, and also the other youngster, Tong, get himself two. David Warner and Usman Khawaja, the two left-hand openers. Yeah, that's a bit grey in the background from the angle that they've just shown, but it looks like Jimmy Anderson. Some would also say looking a tad grey. We'll be bowling the first over of day two. Australia, anything more than 400 here is a massive boost for them. We've still got time left in the test match. I believe that today was supposed to be the dodgiest when it comes to the weather, but it actually looks like it's if they can avoid the rain early, they might actually get a full day of play in, which would be quite nice to see. Ben Stokes, we haven't seen him bowl a huge amount throughout this test match so far, although we did see a dozen no balls like they have just mentioned. And he was unfortunately the culprit for a couple of those. Jimmy Anderson, one wicket throughout his Ashes series. He's getting closer and closer to that 700 mark. For him and Broad, it's not very often you see both of those two bowling in a day and neither of them picking up a wicket. We have got my Facebook account has been disabled for supposedly violating community standards. What did you do, Nov Mum, to get it violated? What even are Facebook's like? I've seen some weird stuff on Facebook. How do you even violate community standards for it? I'm intrigued, but also slightly worried. And Steve Smith can make his 33rd 100 if he keeps playing well. Yeah, he's only 15 runs away, no idea. So you don't know if it was like a comment on something or like a picture or anything like that? Did they send you like a message or anything? Oh, that man driving the mower around. I think he's just done a loop just for fun. Unless, of course, someone just accidentally left a ride-on lawnmower out in the outfield. Does happen sometimes. We just scored against these Pads Ablaze. So, yeah, it looks like it's going to be a relatively one-sided affair between the Kiwis and the Aussies. I was very excited to be able to cover that game. But then with the copyright strike and everything, we got a little bit hesitant to do some matches just because if we haven't done other ones of the competition, I'm worried that that's going to be something to watch out for now. So I feel like we're going to be a little bit less live streaming before the Rugby Championship starts. But then after it's up and running, I'd like to think we'll be back to our previous record. Looks like even though they were supposed to start at 10, looks like someone forgot to put away the mower. So now they've just finished doing so. And we are now ready for the first ball, ladies and gentlemen. It will be Jimmy Anderson bowling to Steve Smith for the start of day two. As left alone outside of the off stump. Smithy was patient in that first day. So Jimmy Anderson already just moving around the sawdust. So much grass underfoot on the pitch. It does make it a little bit slippery when you do put your foot forward. Let's get you sliding around a little bit. Smith, he will be in no hurry to work away at his 100, although Australia is still going at a pretty decent run rate. Right, Ollie Pope's not on the field. He's going to be fit to bat because it's an external injury they've just mentioned. Know that he did drop the catch yesterday off Stuart Broad's bowling. So I assume that the external injury may have come in the changing rooms after when Broad got his hands on him. Or it was from that, yeah, it was probably that dive that they're just shown fell awkwardly. Two operations on the left shoulder, but he's actually hurt his right shoulder by the looks of it. So he's still going to be able to bat, which is great news for England. I think they're going to need every single one of those men to step up in that batting lineup because they could be chasing 450 plus here. Australia may not even stop at 450 if they get the chance to keep on going. They may even look towards that 500, try and bowl England out twice in quick succession. That ball came in quite nicely from Jimmy Anderson, but Steve Smith was able to get that single off the last delivery. So now Alex Carey, the strike again. And on 11 off 35. So still relatively, I guess you could say relatively solid enough for the run rate. And I've appealed. Hopefully they get it back. Or hopefully to get it back says, no, but well, if you haven't done anything wrong, I'd like to think it wouldn't be too long of a process. That's a nice shot from Alex Carey, just whipping it off the pads. The in-swinger from Anderson. And they will get through for two. Robinson's just taken a massive divot out of the outfield. Yeah, that's a very solid one. Smith 100 says relaxing Kiwi. Already, unfortunately for Ollie Robinson, it was all nice and white on the pants until that first dive, and now he's got the massive green stain. Yeah, took the big chunk out of the turf. Left alone outside of off stump. England, they need the early wicket here just to give them that bit of confidence heading forward. They can get Smith out early here, then you start to get into that tail. You've got Stark, Cummins, who was absolutely brilliant with the bat in hand for the first test match. Actually, a match-winning innings, some would say, for him in the second, and definitely having a decent crack in the first as well. And alongside him, you got Nathan Lyon and Josh Hazlewood. The only real change there in the bowling department was Scotty Boland being taken out for Stark. At hard there. And they will take the single off a misfield. Oh, it's Carey. Looks like he's timing it well so far throughout the early stages of the day. Something Australia will certainly be happy about. First over down. 84 overs now bowled, and it's 343. So, like I said, they're actually going at a very good run rate here, the Australians. Going at 4 and over. Normally they get around that 3.5, but certainly going quickly here. England recently getting the new ball in hand. Still seems to be swinging quite nicely. I think it's going to be Stuart Broad who now bowls. From the other end, yes it is. Now, I believe there's not supposed to be any rain for the rest of the day. It does not look too sunny in there, I'd have to say. And HMEN says, Tony, welcome in, mate. Hope you are doing very well. First day, how much of the test did you get to watch? And also, did you get that video done that you were talking about? Hopefully you got through those 3 minutes. And yeah, hopefully it all went smoothly. Hong, a man who managed to get Warner and Kawaja. That's quite an impressive debut from that young man so far, even though he did start with that slightly higher over rate or run rate than he would have liked. Oh, pitched up there from Stuart Broad and straight away whipped off the pads by Alex Carey. We'll get it away for the 4 runs, and he moves up now to 18. So Broad, little bit of a loosener. Alex Carey was like, well, that's my shot. Yeah, timing it nicely, just catching up with it. I got the vid done. I was in bed around 2 a.m., says Distracted Sports. So that's probably relatively late for yourself, isn't it, Tony? I think. See, it's a weird one. My time zone's that ruined at the moment. That 2 a.m. for me is like, oh, yeah, no, you'll be up by midday. But then, like 2 a.m., oh, 2 in a row. Alex Carey whipping it off the pads. Another 4 runs. He moves up to 22 now. These are all freebie runs for him at the moment. Yeah, 2 a.m. Probably a late night. I would say, yep, that's a late one. There's Tony. That was a great shot from Alex Carey. Two fours in a row off Stuart Broad. Doesn't happen too often when he is pitching it on that leg stump or even wider than leg. Shaking the head early on, Stuart Broad not happy. This one's got to be wide outside off stump, doesn't it? But he can't make it a half volley or else it might get the same result. Now that one's a lot straighter from Broad on the off stump. Alex Carey just with the forward defensive there. Run rate sitting at 4.15. Australia, they started off very slow, about a 2.7, I believe it was, while Warner and Kawaja were at the middle. But then it seemed to be once Kawaja lost his wicket, everyone else seemed to speed up just that little bit more. Warner was quite good with his run scoring. They need more sawdust by the looks of it on the pitch. Just with it being slippery at the moment here. Say that that's just from that bit of moisture that we had on the pitch yesterday. It would have been sweating under the covers while it was wet earlier on today also. I would say that if England can't get a wicket before 375, they'll be in a little bit of trouble. And Australia certainly have got the potential going on to 450, 500 in this first innings. But Broad now, once again, just outside off. Well blocked by Alex Carey. He's a solid batsman. Some people don't rate his batting, but I quite like it. I think it's because he's a good wicket keeper as well. And sees Amelia, welcome in. Hope you are doing very well. Hope you're excited for another day of the Test match. Australia currently in the box seat. More of a favourite to win this game than the English. I can't remember if I've already had a drink on this live stream or not. I think I have one. Oh, how's that not bowled him? I'm giving it. Okay, they're saying height is the problem there. Stuart Broad really liked it. They're going to go upstairs. It's hit him on the back leg. Doing okay-ish, says Amelia. Okay, that's promising. Okay-ish. Okay, it's hit him on the back leg, not given out. Now, everything was given out yesterday by this umpire. Marnus Labuschagne, he got given out for not playing a shot and it was outside and going over the top. Steve Smith, he didn't even edge it and he was given out by this umpire. This time he has kept the finger down, but England decide to review it early. Oh, has that hit the bail? What's happened here? I swear there's a noise as it goes past the stumps. They're checking the ultra edge. There's no edge on it. It's going to hit Alex Carey on the back pad, just on the top of it. Seam presentation's good. So I would say, oh, it's 3 reds. And Alex Carey's going to be gone. And that one, I swear it clipped the top of the stump. Like, I heard a noise after it was going through, but that is now going to be given out. I mean, I said that they'd need a wicket before 375. I didn't say the next ball or the second next ball. That looks out. Might get away with an umpire's call. Steve Smith not happy about that one. But Alex Carey, he'll be gutted. Just as I say, he's a great batsman. I'm very good at commentators cursing these cricketers. My question now is it going to be Pat Cummins or Mitchell Starc who comes out next? I would think from the way that he batted last time, it might be Cummins. That looks like Mitchell Starc. Calling everything wrong today, aren't I? Geez, jinxing, or stop jinxing the Aussies, Hamish. There's Amelia. That was slightly terrible timing, wasn't it? Alex Carey disappointed, definitely because he managed to get himself the 2 boundaries in that same over. Now has to walk his way back to the changing sheds. Mitchell Starc, we didn't get to see him bat in the last one. Lackluster performance from the English. Says Mumbo Jumbo Kiwi. Yeah, unfortunately, just not quite getting the bowling right, I'd have to say. Like, that's a great ball from Stuart Broad. Started off with a couple looseners, but yeah, yesterday I don't think there was enough good stuff bowled by Anderson, by Broad. I mean, we saw 12 no balls as well, so that can certainly hurt you. Away from Xavier, welcome in. And it's looking ugly for Australia. It's now 36-0. Kick to come, says Pads Ablaze. So yeah, it's looking like it could be around that 50 mark. They're not too careful. I'm interested about this under 20 game though between New Zealand and France because that is one that, I mean, of course, it's a prelim of what we're going to see for the Men's World Cup, but it's also just a interesting way of seeing where everyone is at the moment. Well, bowled by Broad on the stumps, but Stark whips it off his pads, and that's going to be 3 runs at least by. Oh, tell you what, he slammed into the wall there. Who's that? That's Jimmy Anderson. He stayed down, taking a hard tumble there. Timo was having a look, says Pads Ablaze. And don't England have a good under 20 side? They are pretty decent. They are going to be playing up against the Flying Fijians later on tonight. Also, they did actually draw with Ireland in their first game of the under 20s World Cup. A great shot out of the middle with a bat for Mitchell Stark. And Pat not coming get a, says Nazi Williams. Yes, certainly plenty of commitment there from Jimmy Anderson out on the boundary rope. Hi from South Africa, says Rudy. Welcome in, mate. Say good morning for yourself. South Africa also going to be playing in that under 20s World Cup. They are taking on the Italians in 4 hours' time, so starting at about 2 a.m. New Zealand time. Currently, Australia in the under 20s as well. For anyone wondering, they are winning their game up against the Irish 18 points to 10. Now, I believe that they've got a few of the games on the World Rugby YouTube channel, or at least they did for the first couple games. Surely they've still got the new ones going. No, I don't think they do. Interesting. I swear they would have had it all fired up, ready to go, but I guess they've only got the opening round on World Rugby's website. Interesting. Under 20 team look pretty ordinary thus far. Mumbo Jumbo Kiwi. Nice delivery. Yeah, they had a tough game up against the Wales. Are you doing the under 20 games? Says Rudy. We had big plans to do a lot of them. And then we got that copyright strike, which has now got me a little bit hesitant with it being so close to the Rugby Championship because, yeah, if we get another copyright strike now, we won't actually be able to do any of the Rugby Championship round 1 or almost round 2 either, depending on whenabouts that strike if we did end up getting one. So it's a bit of a risk if we do one. We might end up doing one of the games maybe on the sport channel in the near future, just as a bit of a safety one. And hello, Sir Smith to each. And another test 100, says Naveen. Hopefully they check the South African 20s ID. Some of them look 30. They're giants, says Nazi Williams. That's the same with the Georgian under 20 side. Some of their guys look like they're in their mid-30s, if not 40, and they're still tearing it up on the field. Yeah, there's some big boys, some exciting talent coming up through that under 20s World Cup. Jimmy Anderson, once again, outside of off stump, Steve Smith leaves it alone. Interesting field set. They haven't really got anyone covering the cover drive other than the one man who's almost a little bit of a cover point. Other than that, though, Smith does end up getting it outside of off stump and he starts driving. Could end up with a lot of runs on the board, and Rudy has got the sad faces. I think I am just as sad about it as well because, yeah, had we not had that strike and everything still going smoothly, we would have probably done 90% of those under 20 games that are being shown here in New Zealand. But now, because of it, it's meant that we're a little bit shy of going for those other ones. I'd like to think the under 20 World Cup would be all right, but it's just very hard to tell. Oh, that one came in a little bit. And we'll take the single, and now Stark will have the strike for the last 2 balls of the over. See, my scoreboard's still working. Yes, it is. Still a 4.16 run rate for the Australians. 5 overs at the moment. The new ball is old. The way that Stark hit it with his first shot of the day, I feel like he's looking relatively confident at the moment, Mitchell Stark, I would have to say. Oh, he's trying to getting off stump. Does normally set up so that he has got 2 of them covered Normally sits with his back foot on off stump, front foot on middle stump, and then looks to open up that leg side if the opportunity is there. Smack at the back down hard now. Nice and solid there. He'll take the single. That'll be another one. Although the World Rugby website, surely they're showing the games on there, aren't they, for the under 20s? I'll have a quick look. I know they mentioned, yeah, the under 20 trophy. Watched live. Games will be available. All matches there. Nice and solid behind that one, Smith. Match to start. No, they're not showing them on World Rugby. Unless maybe that's just because I'm in New Zealand, possibly. Test comment says a real Peter Andrew Nolan. Well, the test comment has worked. So I can see it. 86 minutes through. Oh, sorry, not 86 minutes through, 86 overs through. England, they did pick up that early wicket of Alex Carey, but I think they're going to need one or two more in quick succession just to really help them towards shutting down this Australian total. Anything over 400 is going to be a hard chase. Anything over 450 to 500, some would consider near impossible, depending, of course, on how aggressive England go, because, you know, we have seen them play baseball in the past, and it has been an effective way of them batting, but when you have that little bit of extra pressure on them, and they get to that stage of maybe batting to save a test match, that's something you might have to consider. 1050s for Mitchell Starc, that they are saying. So he certainly had a decent amount of time at the crease. Has lasted a while. Hi all, says Hanoi. Welcome in, mate. Keep him well. And Ireland Oz in a tight match rugby, says Hanoi. I'm on a 24-hour comment ban. I didn't know if it'll work here. Good to see you. We have done good in the first innings. On a 24-hour comment ban, like from YouTube in general, real Peter? Or I know that our channel, you only have 60-second timeout, I think it is, or something like that, or 5-minute timeout for people. So did you like get a YouTube 24-hour comment ban? And if so, what did you do to get that? I didn't even know they gave those out. And I'm back, Karen, says Deegan. Welcome back. Yes, on YouTube, I've been a bad boy. Right. Okay. Stark's looking solid, though. He's got 5 runs off 5 balls. Smith, 13 away from his century. Black Ferns at the moment looking solid up against the Australians, sitting 38-0 over them at the moment. Will Smith get 150 today? He's got the time to do so. It's just the question of will he go out or will they declare first? Oh, that was, sorry, I almost gave that out, but he did get the inside edge. Had to catch the finger there. If there was no edge, he was gone, dead and buried. And Smith batted really well yesterday. I only saw the highlights. Yeah, the inside edge from Stark. I've actually tied up my hands underneath my arms now just to stop them from going up for the outs. It looked like the sun was coming up just for half a second there, but now it seems like it might be drizzly again, which I hope isn't the case. Pushing at that one a little bit, Mitchell Starc, but he will manage to get himself the single for it. Another one taken. I feel like both of these two will look to be relatively aggressive. Maybe Smith will take his time getting set, but if the bad ball is there, he will try and hit it. Looks like he's trying to move every single person who's behind the sight screen on that whole side of the ground. He wants them all to move around to the other side. And no more rain delays, says Amelia K. Yeah, hopefully we don't see any more rain coming in this contest. Yet Steve Smith saying that they aren't closed enough. There we go. They've moved them together and now he's happy. Be Stuart Broad bowling, who has started the second day after those two quick succession boundaries from Alex Carey. He's looking a lot more solid with his bowling. That'll be the end of the over. 358 for 6. Looks like now he wants a change of gloves. Smith wants something anyway. He's currently only 21 minutes into the session. That ball just didn't quite come back in the way that he thought that it would. Managed to stay away from him. Looking at it, he's saying, watch the ball. See that Broad's disappointed though. He thought that he almost could have had Smith out. There was actually one yesterday where Smith was given out. Didn't quite get that outside edge, so it was reversed. Got to keep batting. Jimmy Anderson continues from the other end, trying to get that one to go across Mitchell Starc, who once again defends. I am quickly going to have a little look at who's in that New Zealand under-20 side, though. Caleb Tangitale's out on the wing, Macca Springer, Harry Godfrey, Peter Lakai, Hotham. They got a decent side. The Kiwis. Yeah, but just saw that in the highlights. It was very close to the bat, but just missed. Says Peter. Left alone by Starc. 129k. So the quickest of the bowlers has still been Tong. Everyone else, I mean, Anderson, I think, had about an 85 mile per hour delivery. And then the last time I saw in terms of pace, Ollie Robinson was right down compared to anyone else. He was able to pick up the one wicket. That would have been the wicket of Marnus Labuschagne. Root, he also picked himself up too. Oh, that's an edge, and that's the wicket. Mitchell Starc now dismissed, and Jimmy Anderson picks up his second wicket of the Ashes, his first of this test match. And Will Smith might run out of partners, says Hanoi there, and damn it, says Amelia. There we go, says Distracted Sports. So, yeah, they just needed to keep that intent going there, the English, not willing to allow Australia just to get comfortable. Knew that Mitchell Starc was going to have the big golf swing at it if he got the opportunity. And a good take there from Johnny Bairstow. The wickets already. How many were the Australians on? They were on about 239 or something, wasn't it? So they've actually scored less than 20 runs and lost the 2 wickets in the process. You'd have to say very decent bowling from England. Run rate still sitting at 4.09. Pat Cummins now making his way to the middle. Had a couple fantastic innings. That first test at Edgbaston, including helping his side get over the line. A very crucial, in fact, he got a very crucial 30 in both. What's up, or what's all the read about on the England kit today? So I believe it is the Ruth Strauss Foundation Day. They normally have it day 2 of the test. So that is why we are seeing not just the English, but also the Australians with the pink on there. It does look a little bit darker than it normally is, but yeah, it's more of a pink, or it's supposed to be pink anyway, although it does look a little bit more orange. But yeah, it's the Ruth Strauss Foundation Day. So that is why they have got the colours. An interesting question from Rugby Debuts, but there you go. I'll let you answer that one, Tony. Jimmy Anderson picks up his first wicket of the day and of the test. Can he get another? Pat Cummins leaves that one alone outside of off stump. Oh, Joe Root almost got hit in the head with it after Bairstow offloaded it to him. Recently, after that last test, actually being able to bring up a total of over 1,000 runs, up to 1,020 now for the Aussies. Best of 63. That was in 2018. The way that he's been batting, You might be able to get there. Sorry, I'll keep it PG from now on. Although we haven't heard the answer from Tony yet in that regard. I mean, we don't really hit PG very often, to be honest, on these cricketing live streams. So yeah, you're all right. Hope you are doing well. Steve Smith still on 87. Can Wallaroos score? Will they end up with a donut? Says Nov Mum. I mean, I think it's going to be very tricky to score up against this Blackburn side. Definitely with the way that they've come out firing in the contest, but I'd like to think they'll get one at some stage. Now Anderson, last ball of his over. Oh, that's at the pad, but it has swung down leg side. It'll be a leg bye to close out the over. Devils number 87. Says Peter. Is it? I thought that was, oh no, that's 666, isn't it? What was the question? I missed it. Says Tony. It was from rugby debuts a bit earlier on at 10:29 on the old chat. 13 from 100, says Peter. It is mathematically correct. There's some blue sky in the background, just a little bit. 5 overs bowled, 20 runs scored, and 2 wickets falling for the Australians. Now Broad continues his spell. I don't think they'll be switching either of these two anytime soon. They keep on bowling the way that they are. Black Ferns trailed at the Bronx and Reds HQ. Oh, sorry, trained rather than trailed. Pitched up again nicely by Broad. Well played by Pat Cummins. It seems like this new ball's just doing enough for them to be able to find a little bit of success. I'm going to have a very quick look and see what I can find out about this Ireland versus Australia under-20s game as well. Can't see it on the chat. Act it out, Hamish. Acting it out. Well, that's a great question. How would you act out or how is I don't know how you would act out that part, but pretty much the part that he was asking about was, the yeah. And 23-10 to Ireland, says rugby debuts. Are they winning? The Irish. Oh yeah, fair play. I actually read it around the wrong way the first time. I thought Australia were leading 18 points to 10. So they must have recently scored, did they, the Irish? Yeah, McCarthy in the 63rd minute. Got himself one. What's up, Hamish? I'm back. Ramsel says, Andy there, welcome in. And rainy conditions suiting the Irish today. Says Hanoi. Pitched up, whipped to leg by Steve Smith. This will be at least 2. That, tell you what, he's timed that very well. That will be 4 runs now for Smith, and he moves into the nervous 90s. No, I don't know, Hamish. Says Distracted Sports. Well, how would you describe it, rugby debuts? You'd like to know how you're going downstairs. Aussies getting done in the scrum. Says rugby debut. So I guess good question is, who are you picking for New Zealand versus France a little bit later on, rugby debuts? It is in 55 minutes time, I do see. And then 30 minutes after that, it will be Wales versus Japan, which I think Wales should win, but it's hard to tell. And also, are you streaming the Rugby World Cup? Are you talking about the Rugby World Cup in France, or are you talking about the under-20s Rugby World Cup? Is that which one? Because I know that the under-21 is currently taking place with the Aussie player, the Irish. How big's the old fella? Is that no, not quite. No, he's asking about yours, Tony. About how yours is getting on. Smith on 91, 9 away from the century. The France World Cup says, we certainly are. We're streaming every game of the Rugby World Cup 2023 on the channel. And I'm excited about it because it's been a long time coming, only about 70 days away now, which is pretty awesome. Mine, yeah, yours. He must watch the podcast, I would say. Did you hear about what happened in Oamaru today, says Kiwi Gamer? I did not know. What happened in Oamaru? And thank you, says Annie. Yeah, we're hoping to do a little bit of that under 20 World Cup as well at some stage. Maybe. It's a tricky one because we did just recently get a copyright strike, and we, of course, do not want to get another one. But yeah, it's an interesting one. And it's fantastic. Thanks for asking, says Tony. But that will be the end of the over. 364 for 7 now, and Cummins back on strike as France under 20s a strong team. They are. They've got some very good players. They won their first game up against Japan 75 points to 12. And you know that they're a very well-oiled side, but not literally that I know of. But like some of these guys in their side, you may not have heard of many of them unless you guys are fans of like the kind of French academy side of things. But yeah, some very classy players throughout that back line. What did they give you a strike for? They gave me a strike for using the competition title in my title. So pretty much I got a strike for words. Luckily, it got removed because it was a false strike. But yeah, it was slightly unfortunate. We had to not do the Super Rugby final, even though we had covered 61 of the games prior to that final on the channel. See you when the World Cup begins, says Eddie. Okay, well, I guess we'll see you in a couple months then, or 3 months or so. Have a look in general on your Discord. Just posted 2 photos. Says Kiwi Gamer. So you can't tell me what it is, I guess, in that case. Yep, that was weird. As a few other channels had the same title, says Annoy. Yeah, I'm not sure what it was that made my one different. I think it was, in a way, because we had quite a few people watching, that actually hurt us because then they were like, oh, if he's got that many people watching, surely he's actually showing the thing. But no, we weren't. We were just talking, and then yeah, we got silenced, I guess you could say, which is why I've been a little bit hesitant. Like I wanted to do the Black Ferns game, but I was worried that we could end up getting a copyright strike for that. I wanted to do the under 20 game between France and New Zealand. I feel like that was going to be a fantastic fixture. I was worried that I might have gotten strike for that. That was, it was an awkward Yorker bouncing into the ground there, Steve Smith, and it actually ended up going over the top of Crawley, and that's going to be another 4 runs for Steve Smith now, moving up to 95 runs on the board. Boat was wrecked at the harbour. Like, as in wrecked because it hit something, or wrecked as in someone, like, broke onto it? Because I guess, do you break into a boat? Depends on the boat, I guess. Some boats don't have a part that you can actually get to. Live without fear, my dude, says the Tractor Sports. It's easy to say that, and then because we've done that before in the past, that's why we did the Cricket World Cup, and then we got a strike, which is unfortunate. He's 5 runs away from his 33rd 100, but I think the thing that makes it trickier is if we get a strike now, we're not going to be able to do pretty much 2/3 of, or 1/3 of the Rugby Championship if we end up getting any now, if we can't get them removed in time. So you just have to creatively reword the titles to avoid strikes now, says Annoy. Not sure. I feel like it's only the very rare occasion when they just decide, we'll do it anyway. Like, in terms of, because I know that I had one for the Rugby League World Cup. I didn't get one for one of the semi-finals, but I think I got it for the other semi-final. So it's really weird how it works. It's only sometimes. When you've got a massive Johnson like Tony, you don't care about strikes, says a Rugby Debut. And also a stable income, I would think, would possibly help it. And during NFL season in the US, there are tons of guys doing commentary. No one gets strikes for it, says Peter. Yeah, it's just a weird one with rugby. Like I've worked out now I've had 4 strikes on this channel, and we've never shown a second of audio or footage. So yeah, I'd like to think if we were showing footage, we would be well and truly gone by now. That was a nice little edge on the outside from Steve Smith. Played it with soft hands, which does now work him up to 99 runs on the board. Closing in closer and closer towards that half century. Or sorry, that full century. And Smith, one needs 100 test, says Naveen. And I show heaps of footage and I haven't had one. Weird Ace says Distracted Sports. Yeah, so I don't know whether or not it's just like I guess maybe streaming wise, maybe it's easier to get one because they don't bother looking. Instead, they'll just go, oh yeah, no, he must be boom, gone. Rather than like with a video, I guess you've got more time to be like, okay, they are actually showing that. US Sports embrace the sharing of footage, good for the sport. Says rugby debuts. Yeah, see, that's the thing. You always see like the clips and everything of Super Rugby and Rugby Championship, everything like that for rugby on the World Rugby sites. But anyone else who tries to do anything like that gets taken straight down. Whereas something like football, they have a lot of channels that are dedicated to just showing random clips that aren't even associated, and they are still able to. I think it would have been around how many are we watching, sadly, says Tony. So yeah, it's weird, isn't it? Because it's like, yeah, how do we stop people watching watching so that we don't get false copyright strikes? It's a weird scenario to be in. England bowling attack seems a bit blunt. Something is missing, says Ronald. Yeah, they're missing that. Well, I mean, like Tong was getting it down there at about 143, 145, somewhere around there, but I would say they're probably missing their spinner. They've got Joe Root, who's a decent option. Currently, the spin might not be doing too well, but I think in general, they're just going to be missing that out and out spinner option. Oh, a little bit uppish from Cummins. Goes straight to Anderson, who's fielding at mid off. 35 Ks that time for Stuart Broad. You want as many people as possible to watch at the same time. Quite a pickle, says Distractor Sports. Yeah. Yeah, it's a very tricky one to manage because, like, depending on, of course, the competition will depend on how many people are going to be watching. But it does seem to be, oh, nice shot from Cummins. Like at the moment, we've had two strikes from the same competition, whereas we've had the other two strikes from two different sports. So there's a common denominator here, a little bit. Reckon Aussies win 5-0, says Shannon. And also, they've been paying attention to the rugby under 20s competition. I've been keeping an eye on it. I was hoping to do some of the commentary, but I'm scared now. But I see that New Zealand play in France in about 45 minutes' time. I'm going to be eagerly watching that one, seeing what happens. It was on its left side, secured to a digger. When I went down there, oh, nicely whipped away. Someone picking parts that had come off in a rowboat. Come on, Smudge and Sir Boland when injured. Not playing, yes, says Naveen. And I think it was to bring Stark back in as well. It kind of worked nicely for them to keep them rotating because they don't want to wear out their quick bowlers, which is something that England may find happen if they keep on playing Broad and Anderson in all 5 of the tests. I know that Anderson, even in the first match, wasn't feeling 100%, but they still played him, and now they've played him again. And also, so in this scenario, 10,000 people are watching the stream in the World Cup final. You putting yourself, says Distracted Sports. I mean, to be honest, if even 1,000 people were watching that final, I'd be nervous because of the old system. But it's weird. I trust World Rugby more than I trust Sansa to a certain extent. Like we've done the Six Nations and everything along those lines, which I guess to be fair, we didn't have those same numbers as Super Rugby for the Six Nations, but we've still done competitions and you don't feel as worried about it, if that makes sense. As under 20s live in New Zealand on Sky, it is. So they've got them scattered throughout a few different channels. What happened to the games being on the World Rugby YouTube channel? That seemed to be the first week thing, and then they did 4 games, got good views on it. That should have been an indication that they should have kept it going, and then they stopped doing it. A good chance and focus on the Test cricket, says Naveen. For Boland, yeah, he has picked his format, and he's very happy with it. Quick run taken by Cummins, great running. Now Steve Smith moves on strike, sitting on 99. Probably the same guy doing the strikes. He's Kiwi Gamer. 166 balls gone. Steve Smith. Right, they're bringing a player up to square leg rather than deep, so they do want to keep him a little bit squeezed. And here we go. Says Peter. No, go on, get the 100. Says Beds Ablaze. That will be the single, or sorry, that will be the dot ball, I should say. They won't receive it. Oh, I should mention, ladies and gentlemen, has everyone seen the news about Munster taking on the Crusaders next year? That will be a very interesting contest when it does take place. I believe it's going to be during the Six Nations, which means Munster will be missing their Irish internationals for that game. For the Crusaders, they will be missing quite a few of their. Oh, great Yorker from Anderson. And come on, England, says Anton. And don't trick us, come on, says Pedza Blaze. Crowd's starting to get a little bit restless with Smith sitting on 99. I reckon Black Ferns will crack 50. Says no bumble at the moment. I saw recently the update was they moved up to 43, didn't they? So as long as they get one more try, they should be right. Although they're running a little bit low on time, aren't they? Shot from Steve Smith. That'll be the 100, and it won't just be 100, it will be 103 for Steve Smith now. And brilliant batting from the Aussie. I was going to call him the Aussie co-skipper a little bit. He seems to make more decisions than Pat Cummins at time, but it is going to be another 100 for him. 45-0, few minutes left, says Pads Ablaze. Steve Smith needs a single to get 33rd 100. And yes, Smudge, says a rugby debut. There, and they're clapping from Andrew, but 14 fours in the end. 294 minutes at the crease. Very good work from Stephen Smith. 1,200 against England. And 8th in England. They have just mentioned as well. So he'll be happy enough with that, I would be thinking. That's going to be another solid shot. Seems like he's just decided to ramp it up a little bit. That's going to be 2 boundaries in a row for Steve Smith. Looks great, the outfield, says Hanoi. And also we've got their 3,300s for Steve Smith now. And congratulations, Smith, says Naveen. Just having a look through. Are they showing the under 20s games on YouTube coming up? I'm looking through, and it doesn't look like it is going to be there. Oh, no run taken this time from Smith. I always thought that they had them either on the World Rugby YouTube channel or somewhere else, but there's hardly any results for it. 100 against Jimmy and Broad. That's a good 100. That's quality bowling right there, says Peter. There's some very handy bowlers in this English lineup. Even someone like a Robinson, when he gets it in the right place, he can be very hard to play. Also seen the youngster, Tong, able to get himself a couple of wickets of Warner and Kawaja, but Smith, a very happy man after getting himself that 100. Cummins inside edge. It's a single again. This strike is rotating very nicely for the Aussies at the moment. Keeping those runs ticking over. Broad played in Hobart, or played for Hobart in T20. Says Annoy. See the disappointment on Jimmy Anderson's face. You see Man is also smiling big time when he saw that 100 being scored yet again. Right, Steve Smith is just Josh Tong bowling yet? Not yet. They haven't given him a crack today. I wouldn't think he'd be too far away though after that last Jimmy Anderson over. I think they might actually go to him as the next changeover, either him or Robinson, or maybe even both. But I'd like to think he's not too far off because I think he was almost, even though he was one of the more expensive bowlers, I think he was one of the pick of the bowlers yesterday because of that extra bit of pace and little bit of nip that he was able to get with that slightly newer ball. So it might not be a bad time to think about bringing him in. That is 50. There's Knob Mum. Yeah, the Blackburns certainly on fire in that contest. Abroad. Off the outside edge for Cummins. It's going to be another 4 runs. You'll take him any way you can get him. England, it seems to be at the moment they're going in for boundary after boundary. And Aussies beaten by Ireland, 30 points to 10, final score in the under 20. Very wet and muddy game. His rugby debuts. Saw those games. Where was that one played? That was in Pal. The next one's, yeah, it is in Pal. But then the other one, Wales versus Japan, is in Stellenbosch. So yeah, 3 games from Pal by the looks of it, and about 3 from Stellenbosch as well, is it? Yeah, 3 and 3. So yeah, if it's wet for that last game, it's going to be a wet game for New Zealand and France, I would be thinking. Which you wonder who it benefits. You probably think that benefits maybe the French a little bit more for that one. For this session, we're seeing 9.4 overs bowled, 52 runs scored. Majority of those actually coming from boundaries, and then the 2 wickets falling of Alex Carey and Mitchell Starc coming slightly getting lured in to try and go after that ball as it drifted across him. Sun, we can slightly see some of it in the background by the looks of it, so that is great news. Another one from Cummins, nice and solid. Dot balls. They will actually, it's weird to say, but dot balls are actually a little bit crucial here for England. They need to try and build some sort of pressure because Australia are scoring too freely. It was only recently we were talking about Steve Smith moving up to 99, and now he's on 108. Cummins sitting on 11 off 17, so still scoring relatively freely. Also has the whole offside to play with for at least a single. Do you reckon they'll declare if they get 430? I don't think so. I think they'll go a little bit higher than 430 while they've got England in this tough position and while they are getting a lot of runs shot. Or was it great fielding from Ben Stokes? Manages to cut that one off nicely. I don't think there was a catching chance there, but yeah, some very good fielding. Cummins disappointed that he wasn't able to get that one through the gap. Session so far, like I mentioned, 52 runs being scored. Could have been 56 if Stokes wasn't right place, right time for that one. Run rate 5.2 for just this session, but overall 4.2. And here comes Tong, now getting himself the opportunity with the ball in hand. And nope, we won't declare in the first innings unless we get to 500, says Peter. Yeah, I think Australia will look to go big here. They can get away with it. Okay, they've said no short balls to Pat Cummins as of yet, but they think that Tong might actually be the guy that decides to give him a few more shorter deliveries. Here he comes, Tong. Side of off stump, left alone by Steve Smith. 131k, so slowly building into it here for Tong. AMD has said, video like from Bangladesh, says MD. So thank you very much, mate. Usually appreciate you being here. Well, this one, they're just showing that dismissal of Warner. That was a cracking delivery from Tong. Get that ball to go back in. Smith sitting on 108 off 173 deliveries. What about going after that slightly wider delivery from Tong, but decides against it? 135, slowly starting to ramp up that pace. I'm starting at 11:30 New Zealand time. I'm doing some maths in my head, and now I'm trying to decide whether we do the under 20 game between France and New Zealand or whether we stick with the old cricket or give updates of one of them while watching the other as well. Just thinking. The big run up from Tong. They're saying open chester, which sometimes makes that little bit more movement for him. Can't tell whether or not the ball is coming back in or going away. Australia won't make the same mistake by declaring in the first innings the way England did. And they will try and bat England out of the match if they can, says Ronald. Which would include, that 500 plus mark. Steve Smith, he'll get himself, I would think, if he can stay out there, they'll have him at least 150. Have a Warner doing a crossword book. Is £2.50 for that massive book of crosswords. That's actually a decent deal. Crossword book. A run taken for Steve Smith that time. Sitting on 108. Still plenty of time left. The sun is out at the moment. I would have to say we're definitely going to see England batting at some stage throughout today, though, unless there's some sort of rain that stops play or anything along those lines. I think we're definitely going to get to see them play some of this one. And yep, we don't often declare in the first innings, says Peter. It would only be maybe a mind games thing to declare, similar to what we saw for England. Oh, nice fielding from Stuart Broad. Smith still manages to get through for that single, and that will be the end of the over. 392 for 7. Right, is this where we see Ollie Robinson coming in from the other end? Steve Smith looking a little nervous for that one. Will be Smith on strike today, fellow cricket fans. Says Muttley, welcome in, mate. You are doing very well. And did you see Ian Chappell hold a 42-year grudge against Ian Botham? Says Hanoi, I did not know. What was it for? I'd tell you what, it would have to be something relatively bad, wouldn't it, if it's 42 years? That's like almost, that's just under double my age. Been drinking a lot of water today. Got to be good for you, as they say. Hydration is key, or else I think I would have lost my voice many, many times over. But Robinson now can bowl his first over here. 30 minutes until France versus New Zealand. Do we cover that one? I'm still deciding. It's getting quite close to it, though, I should mention. We're only 30 minutes away. I would still have to make a thumbnail and get everything sorted along those lines if I was to do it. Not sure. Chappell claimed both of them held a glass to his face and threaded him in the 80s. I mean, I can probably understand why there was a little bit of a grudge there. Like, if he almost got stabbed, you know? Solid again from Smith. Beefy, definitely an aggro bugger, says Muttley. It's Justin Langer, I believe, watching on. We're in the Ray-Bans. Also, Sangakkara watching on as well for this one. Robinson, fourth ball now of his over. Nice quick single taken again from Australia. So they are just ticking over nicely here. Cummins 11 off 18. And he hasn't had a huge amount of strikes since since Smith got somewhere near that 100. I believe when he was on 91 runs, Cummins had maybe faced about 15 or 16 deliveries. And then since then, Smith has had majority of the strike. Solid again from Cummins, and Dragons fullback is super quick. Says Annoy. And quick boys around. I saw in State of Origin someone's high speed was about 36 or 38 kilometers an hour or something, which is pretty impressive moving for any person, let alone an athlete. Like, just, I always say if I could run 35 kilometers an hour, like, even though I wouldn't be able to run very far, I would just run everywhere just for the sake of just driving. I'd love to get a speeding ticket for running in the 30K zone. You know, imagine the scenes. You know, you're told you're only allowed to drive 30, but you run 35, and then they're like, oh, we better stop him because he's a bit too quick. Looks like it is going to be drinks now. So I think my mind has almost been sold on doing the under 20 game, ladies and gentlemen. I wonder how fast Cullen was in kilometres. Says Annoy. Because that's the thing, they probably didn't have that technology to be able to track those players as well back in the day, did they? Yeah, so what we would have to do if we do that under 20 game, I believe we would end up doing it more than likely. We'd probably do it on the Kiwi Lads Sport channel just to be safe, I would say, just because we wouldn't want to strike on the main. So, yeah, we might end up setting up something along those lines. Although the thing is, that is only 26 minutes away, and that's not a very long time. But then I'm intrigued to see how this one goes. It's quite the conundrum. Run rate 4.14 for the Aussie. So they'll still be batting for a little while yet, I would be thinking. I don't think we're going to see England batting in this session. If they do, it will only be for a very brief amount of time. It's a fancy bottles old England have got too. Like very flash ones for the drinks break. Talking about the Roof Strauss test. That is why there is so much red around the ground on the back of the players' shirts for Australia and England. They have actually both got the red colours there. Apparently, the update, they've had a lot of runs being scored throughout this session up till this point. Yeah, I think the plan, ladies and gentlemen, this is normally not what we do because we are normally a little bit more organised than this, but I believe the plan is going to be to do that France versus New Zealand under 20s. Oh, it's only 25 minutes away, though. I think it's going to be the plan. We're going to try our best to get that one all scheduled, and then we will be doing it over on the Kiwi Lads Sport channel. We will be able to also keep you guys updated with what is happening in the cricket alongside the matchup between the two teams as well. That's the plan anyway. Hopefully it goes smoothly. Fingers crossed anyway. So be sure to keep an eye out on that sport channel. And then that'll be in about 25 minutes. We go live for that one. And we will be all good to go. Keeping you guys updated with the cricket as well along the way. A little bit disorganized, I will mention, but we were panicking. Nonetheless, I do thank you all very much for tuning into this one. We'll quickly see this ball from Tong, left alone by Smith. Yeah, we will be popping over to that sport channel for that rugby match. Does this channel still have a bucket hat policy? I wish we did. I don't know where all the bucket hats have gone, sadly. I think someone may have been through and thrown them all out. when they had the opportunity. But we'll have to get the bucket hats back at some stage, won't we, in the near future? But yeah, we will actually be back for tomorrow's. I think we're going to be doing at least 2 sessions tomorrow of the cricket. Can you stream them both from the same channel? Says Hanoi. That's the wicket of Smith. Long's just got him. So as in like being able to do the Ashes and the rugby at the same time, or just doing like the under 20s on this channel as well. That's the wicket of Smith. I'm glad that I didn't just end, because I would have missed that one. Gonski says Annoy. That's a fantastic wicket. Tong, outside edge from Steve Smith straight to Ben Duckett. Right, I've changed my mind again. We're sticking around. Because now it's the intriguing part. Only a couple more moments, a couple more wickets. Australia now looking like maybe bowled out for about 430, I would say, is about a total that they'll be looking for. The round of applause going around the ground for Steve Smith. And hey, Hamish, how's it, mate? Says David Mott, doing very well, mate. You're also keeping well. And all the rich guys in the clubhouse gave him a standing ovation. Says Inouye. Well, that's the thing. He's batted very well, Steve Smith, and he'll be disappointed to be dismissed in that fashion. But Tong, he's been the pick of the bowlers. And once again, he has shown why, because he's just got that little bit of extra pace, gets it to nip on a little bit. Now, Nathan Lyon making his way to the middle. We may get to see England bat throughout this session if we are lucky. I should mention that they were a little bit later starting this one. About 5 minutes behind. That was just with the little delays that we had in terms of them moving tractors around and whatnot. But now Nathan Lyon at the middle with Pat Cummins. This was the partnership that created the chance for them in the last test match. It seemed like maybe the Aussies could have been down and out at times. But Nathan Lyon and Pat Cummins, those two working together and just doing extremely well in the process. Chappell claimed that it was both of them started the fight, trying to hit him with a broken glass. Says Peter. You don't want to get hit with a broken glass. That's a nice back foot punch from Nathan Lyon. They considered the single, decided against that. And this is where, for the Australians, they still need to make sure that they're scoring runs here with these last batsmen, rather than going a very loose shot from Steve Smith, though. The way that he just pushed at it. Just that little bit intrigued to go after it. That's a nice straight ball from Tong again. Yeah, like I said, one of the pick of the bowlers, just that little bit of extra pace already shown can be hugely effective. Duckett saw it nice and early, could be all out for 415 season a week. Yeah, somewhere around there seems likely at the moment now that they've lost that big wicket of Smith. They've lost their set batsman, which I think could hurt them quite a bit here. Oh, the pace. It's hit him in the leg there, Nathan Lyon, but you certainly don't want to receive a bouncer from this youngster. It looks like he's having a little bit of a chat there, Nathan Lyon, with Tong on the way past. It was right off the toe. Steve Smith in great innings from Smith. Put us in a very good position, says Peter. And yeah, as long as the Australian tail, like, let's say theoretically these boys get another 20 or so runs, they could be hugely crucial when it comes to either Australia bowl extremely well and can get England out relatively cheaply. That's a great shot from Pat Cummins. That's going to be at least the 2 runs here. I believe they will just take 2. Ollie Robinson chases after it. Gets it in from the deep. Will now make the score 396 for 8 after 96 deliveries. Looks like Australia already at the stage of trying to pick their new ball. I think Marnus is even having a look at them too. Not sure. I mean, Marnus, it's interesting, isn't it? Because he's probably more of the giving the batting perspective in terms of what one he wouldn't want to face or what one he thinks would move more. I would have thought that you would have maybe one of your bowlers in there. Mitchell Stark, I would have expected to see up there having a look at them. Josh Hazelwood, you probably wouldn't want to put him off, seeing as he is just about to bat. They've actually just said about it. Okay, they're just, I swear they're just saying what I literally just said. Because I was saying it was weird that they had Marnus Labuschagne rather than Mitchell Stark having a look at the balls, and that is literally what they've just said. Oh, that's outside edge from Nathan Long. Was just short, seeing as we go at it softly. A one bounce to Ben Duckett. Yeah, Travis Head and Marnus, the two men picking out the ball for the Aussies. That's come back in a long way for Ollie Robinson. That one certainly hit the seam and maybe even got something on the wicket as well. Nathan Lyon sitting on 0 off 5. Cummins 13 off 21 deliveries. So he didn't get a huge amount of strike while Steve Smith was in the middle, but that was because Steve Smith was scoring a majority of those runs. Currently now, we'll want to have Lyon on strike a lot more often. If Kawaja was in now, there'd still be no runs. Says Hanoi. Yeah, he was scoring extremely slowly, Usman Kawaja, unfortunately, which was weird because even in his first, well, in his first two innings, the first innings of the last test, he was a little bit quicker. So it wasn't too bad. But yeah, the second innings just never quite got going, unfortunately, Usman Kawaja. And the same with this first innings of this test. Oh, Nathan Lyon, he was expecting the short ball, actually rocked back ready for it, and Ollie Robinson did decide to drop it slightly shorter, so he does get the single. Now Cummins back on strike for the last two balls of the Robinson over. Now, looking at the time that we got remaining, we've got 45 minutes left, maybe even a little bit longer, maybe 50 minutes left of this session due to the delay in the start. I'm just thinking if they lose a wicket now, we may actually see England have a short little stint of batting before the end of this one. And Kawaja has to pick up a pace a little, or pick up the pace a little, can't bat like Boycott as a push at the ball from Cummins and well fielded again. This time it was Harry Brooks. So England seem like they've just upped their intensity in the field at the moment over the last maybe 10 or 15 minutes or so. I think England would be more than happy to get Australia all out for less than 415. That will be the goal anyway. But we know from last Test match that Cummins and Lyon, they can put on a very handy partnership if they need to. They've also still got Josh Hazelwood as another option. He might not bat for too long. That's a great straight drive from Pat Cummins. Didn't get all of it, but will get at least the 2 runs for it. In fact, they will get back for the 3. Very good running from the Aussie skipper and his number 1 spin bowler. And that will now be the 400 on the board for Australia. Crowd giving them the big round of applause for that one. Robinson, that is the end of his 23rd over. He's just picked up that 1 wicket of Marnus Labuschagne. 91 runs he has gone for. But Hazelwood now has gone over to have a look at those balls that they were checking before the Aussies get it in hand. So they must feel like they're not a mile off getting the chance. I also see that Michael Nessa was strapping up his ankle. So I wonder whether or not that is maybe he's going to do some warming up, even though he's not going to be having a bowl in this one. Keeping keeping the limbs loose for if he's asked to field a little bit later on. Wide delivery there from Tong. Not quite wide enough to be called wide. Cummins moves up to 16. He actually, how many? He must not be a mile off. One moment, we're going to go here. Go like this and like this. England versus Australia. We want to see what we can find out for the test series. First test, what we got here. I want to see how many runs Pat Cummins got for himself. Scorecard. He got 44 not out in the second innings. And in the first innings, he got 38. So 38 plus 44. 38 plus 44. My brain's gone a little bit blank, but I believe that is that 82? I think. Somewhere around there anyway. 82. That's going to be one more run. He now has 99 runs for this Ashes series so far, Pat Cummins. Just needs one more to reach the 100, which he'd probably be one of the quicker players to reach the 100 runs in terms of that lower order, even the middle order to a certain extent. I think he's scored more runs than some of them. Has he scored more runs than Labuschagne so far with the bat in hand? He might have. Might not be a mile off that. Oh, they got 3 men out on the leg side. Looks like Tong might be trying out the shorter ball. No, he pitches it up. It was a bit of a double bluff. Nice shot from Nathan Lyon. It's the front foot towards it, but was playing it off the back. Said Nathan Lyon, he compulsively enjoys going for that hook shot. So I wouldn't be surprised to see him try one if it is short. There it is. Oh, almost ended up with the feather, but he does have a crack. It was outside of off stump. Would have been quite a reach for him to be able to cut that one onto the leg side. Tell you what, it was close to a noise there when it went past the bat. I assumed that it was just the sound of him in motion, but there was something there. I don't think they'll go upstairs and check it though. Oh, shot. Almost got the ref. It was a drop one from Tong. We'll be able to get the 2 runs for it, Nathan Lyon, but a very nice straight drive from him. He actually, that is one of his favourite shots. It looks like, oh, Tong got it in the finger. That's the index finger as well. I think that's on the bowling hand. Yes, it is. That won't be feeling too flash for him at the moment. Tony Bairstow talking about his keeping. Okay, they're talking about the fact that he was a little bit wider for the start catch. Interesting. Because I know that his wicket keeping does get criticised quite a bit. That's a great shot from Cummins. We'll be able to get it out there for the 2 runs. No, they just take 1. Okay. Not quite quick between the wickets there. I would have thought they got back for the 2. That one, but that is now 100 runs for Pat Cummins throughout this Ashes series. Big congratulations to him. He has been flying by in the runs scored. And himself 44, 38, and now 18 not out. Nathan Lyon. I can guarantee you Robinson's going to bowl a short one here in the near future because that is how he got Nathan Lyon out in the first innings of the last test. I don't see him changing up that tactic. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. It's pitched up. Nathan Lyon, big call of no, hits it out to the man at cover point for the dot ball. Only 40 minutes remaining in this session. And ideally wouldn't want to have to bat during this session anyway, because then you've got your two openers have to go out there, probably face maybe five or so overs, and then go back out there for another session after that. So you much rather just do it all in one. Which I mean, Australia might think about that a little bit. They may, depending on how many runs they can get. Nice shot from Nathan Lyon there. He's got onto that one. Robinson, unfortunately for him, he only put it at maybe about, I'd say, the abdominal height. And Nathan Lyon, when he saw that it was going to be shorter, because Robinson doesn't have express pace, being able to work it out early, and nowhere near short enough. Actually, probably got up to about the chest height. But Nathan Lyon certainly enjoyed that one. Right, Robinson. Bit of a field change now. Does he decide to put in the effort ball? Or, right, he's got a third man now as well, Ollie Robinson. So it seems like the short balls may continue. Yep. Nicely pulled by Nathan Lyon. He's taking it on. There's a man down there, and they've got him out this time. And it's going to be the youngster Tong. Robinson buys the wicket of Nathan Lyon. Like the commentators mentioned, he's a compulsive hooker, which does mean he's going to go after the short ball. It is there. And now it's going to be Hazelwood and Cummins in the middle. And I believe that they will bowl short to Hazelwood as well. Seems to be the best way that they've been able to get him out. And G has done sometimes, says Jared Troy. Yeah, he's one of those guys, Nathan Lyon, that he doesn't want to be out there for a long time, mainly because if they keep on bowling short to him, I think he's working on the theory he's eventually going to either get himself out or he's going to get hit with the ball and could end up with an injury of some sort. So I think he normally just goes, oh, well, I'll go for it. Like, it's not a great tactic. I'll be honest. That one was short enough. He could have just got underneath it and stayed there for a bit longer. But I think he just gets sick of getting short stuff bowled to him. And Lyon's not you. I know what you mean, Jared. Don't panic. Um, but yeah, he sometimes just gets a bit too keen for that short ball. And I mean, he times it not too badly. Like that one did go down to the man who was on the boundary, but it's not quite the point, is it? If you do end up getting yourself out from it. And now Josh Hazelwood making his way to the middle. He probably isn't hugely happy about the fact that he's had to go out there now, seeing as he would have to warm up to do a bit of bowling and not too long if they do end up losing this one. Our Lion's a compulsive hooker. There's Nuzzy Williams. Pat Cummins. We're just hoping that he has a teammate at the end of this game. He did end up losing his wicket late in that first innings when he was on 38 runs. Josh Hazelwood, mark and centre. 2 balls left of the over. A bunny or good 11, says Deegan. Hazelwood, 61 matches, 446 runs, average of 12. High of 39. Like, he's not a bad batsman, Hazelwood, but once again, they will bowl the short stuff to him. Oh, no, they actually pitched it up. Not a lot of foot movement. He was expecting it to be a little bit shorter, Hazelwood. But, like, I would say he's one of the more... I don't want to jinx him. I've jinxed so many Aussie batsmen throughout this match. I jinxed Alex Carey badly. I said that he was a decent batsman. And that... What was my other comment? That Broad hadn't got a wicket for yesterday, and that doesn't normally happen too often. And then they got the wicket pretty much instantly after. But... yeah, like, he's a pretty decent number 11 batsman, old Hazelwood. He's got a decent shot in him every once in a while. Also, when he's patient, he can stick out there for a while, which is what Cummins will be wanting. He'll want a dance partner at the other end to just stay out there for him to be able to go after the ball a little bit more. And now for Cummins, I think this next over where we see Tong bowling, I think Hazelwood, he will know that Cummins is going to have a bit of a swing. So run hard is pretty much the gist of it, because if he hits it high enough, you might get 2. I think is going to be the summary of this next over. But Tong picking up 3 wickets for himself. His first test match of the Ashes, not exactly too bad at all. I need to do live punts for the next dismissals. When you praise them, says Deegan, yeah, I mean, it would be the perfect time to do so, because as you guys know, my predictions are absolutely awful when it comes to timing, and also when it comes to guessing who's going to do well. It's always the opposite of what I say. Now, Cummins, I would have to say now 408 is looking a little bit low for the Aussies. And I know that that sounds harsh, but I would have thought with the start that they have thrown away a few wickets today. They lost Smith, they lost Kerry early. Stark was gone pretty quick. Recently losing Lyon after only facing about the 10 balls. Now, Pat Cummins leaves that one. It was outside off stump. They'll try and keep Cummins on strike for that last maybe one or two balls of the over. Until then, though, they'll be willing to give him the single, and that is how it looks. They've got two men out deep on the leg side. They've got three men out deep on the offside, and then also the man next to the bowler who will be fielding at that mid on. So, yeah, singles everywhere on the ground. Maybe even the two if they run hard enough. Alone again outside off. The last 5 wickets didn't last long, says Deegan. Yeah, there was a patch where we were saying there's a chance that we may not get to see England bat. Well, I said there was a high chance we wouldn't get to see England bat throughout this first session, but that was when they still had Steve Smith at the middle. 2 balls later, he went out. Once again, my brilliant work in terms of jinxing Aussie players. But yeah, it looks like England. The question is not if they're going to bat this session, it's the question of how long are they going to have to bat for this one. Almost a feather there for Cummins. They needed to bat at least 2 sessions, ideally, to last this first inning, says Deegan. Yeah, I'd say getting anywhere around that 450 towards 500, like that's a pretty good start for the Aussies. But yeah, now it's with the way England have bowled today, it's almost got them back into the contest, which is great to see for the overall, I guess, contestability of this test match. But yeah, the Aussies won't be too happy about it, I wouldn't think, to have such a good lead and then to throw it away with a few quick fire wickets. Once again, Cummins looking close to getting that feather on the ball. Tong bowling very nicely outside of off stump. I believe now, looks like now they're starting to bring up one fielder. Is it just the one? Yep, they are just going to bring up the one guy on the leg side. That might be to try and tempt him to go over the top. And I believe that's Stuart Broad who's been brought in. And how good is my guess? It's 415. Says Hanoi. It looks like it's going to be relatively close there. Nice shot goes to the fielder there, Stuart Broad. And now they're trying to keep Cummins on strike. I believe the whole field will walk in now around him. You would take 400 plus every time in the first inning, says Jared. Yeah, I mean, I think they'll be happy enough with 400, but I think they would have been just a little bit disappointed that they haven't been able to turn it into that 450. With only being the 5 wickets down, having 340 or so on the board, having a set batsman who then went on to get himself the 100. They lost Alex Carey a lot earlier than when they would have liked shot from Pat Cummins, decides to go over the top of cover, gets it away for the 4 runs. And yes, it means that Hazelwood will now have to face against Robinson, but those extra runs on the board could be very handy indeed. 100 overs down now, 412 for 9 for the Australians. We were 3 for 316, so a good fight back from the Pommies. Says Peter, yeah, they've been bowling very well in the later stages of this test match. We're seeing Joe Root. He had a very good little spell of his bowling. See that New Zealand versus France for the under-20s game, ladies and gentlemen, is starting in only 30 seconds time. So we'll be keeping you updated in terms of what is happening in that game alongside what is happening in this one. But yeah, to lose 6 wickets in less than 100 runs for the Australians, you'd have to say it hasn't quite gone the way that they would have liked for today. And it's actually interesting because, yes, it's the new ball, but the conditions almost look sunnier than it was yesterday, but there seems to be more swing on offer today. Robinson, it's a nice drive from Josh Hazelwood. That'll be 4 runs for the Aussie number 11. Over pitch from Ollie Robinson, that makes him bring up his 100 as well. I'm going for the 100 runs of his 24.1 overs. Was on the up, did end up hitting it in the air, but found the gap perfectly there. He just glides it. Robinson not looking too happy. I feel like there's going to be a short ball very soon after that one. Here he comes again, and Ollie Robinson. It is pitched up that time, well blocked by Hazelwood. That's one benefit that Australia do have. Watch me jinx him here. One benefit that they've got is Hazelwood still has the ability of being able to get quite a few runs, and he's able to keep the good ball out. Right, if that's not a commentator's curse for this next ball, I don't know what is. Because that's pretty much set him up for failure here. We'll see whether or not he handles it. Robinson now, third ball of the over. Short ball gets out of the way of it. Nicely done. And low number 11 getting run, says Peter. Yeah, like Hazelwood, that's the thing. In another side, like I probably wouldn't have him as a number 11. Like he's a pretty decent bat. The jinx is on, says Jared. Yeah, that means normally when I say a sentence like that, he gets 3 balls tops. So one of these next two, got to make sure that he keeps them out nicely. And 416 close enough. Says Hanoi there. Yeah, it's still only one off. Like when you consider how many runs 415 is, like to be within one, oh, it's the edge. He's out. Oh, no. How do you do it? Every time. The commentator's curse for the Aussies is absolutely brutal. So that will be England. Able to bowl out the Aussies for 416. The 10th wicket, Robinson gets himself another. I mean, he got 3 wickets, but did he bowl well enough to get the 3? That is the question. Dusty Williams has got the smiley face there. Hazelwood. It says straight to Joe Damien. Just Jared. I didn't mean to. It's just, it happens, you know? It just is the way that it goes. That means now we've got a 10-minute break and then we are back into the last about 20 minutes or so of this first sentence. So you definitely have commentator potential with the jinx like that, says Hanoi. So 77 runs, 5 wickets scored. Well, sorry, 5 wickets taken by the English in the 17.4 overs. So I'll take that every day of the week. That is a very good first session of the day. And you take 460 in the first innings any day. Says Peter there. Looks like a good surface, though, in terms of for the batters and the bowlers. So it could be an intriguing one. Yeah, future one, mate. We'll go like this. Go like that. Go like this. There we go. And we'll click on that. Click on that. Yeah, I was just checking in to see how it looked for the New Zealand versus France under 20s game in terms of that weather. Weather's not looking too great. Effing bowling by Ben Stokes, says AP and AD vlogs. And there, how many overs did Stokes bowl in the end today? Or not today, we know he bowled 0, but how many did he bowl in general so far? I know he was bowling yesterday. He's had some good bowling choices for this one. Where are we? We go here. There. Tong was the standout bowler for me, I think. He was bowling at right place, right time. Ben Stokes, he bowled 3 overs, 1 maiden, 21 runs he went for at an economy of 7, and including 1 or 2 no balls, like I mentioned. From the pitch will be worse now as the second game at Pole. Says Hanoi, yeah, it's looking pretty roughed up at the moment. But yeah, I'm intrigued to know how that one goes. I've got the cricket commentary in my ears, so I know when they're making their way back out onto the field. But for now, I've got New Zealand versus France in the under-20 championship game taking place. Especially when one predicts 415 almost exactly, says Hanoi. And yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how England approach this next innings, because we know Baz ball can be an effective tool. But if you lose that 1 or 2 quick wickets here in this first maybe 20 minutes or 15 minutes that they do have to face off with the Aussie attack, then you have to make some big decisions, and that is, do you go still aggressive or do you take it back a little bit and maybe anchor the innings a bit more. I wonder if England will still be aggressive. Says Jared Troy. Yeah, it's a great question. And yeah, I mean, Duckett's one of those guys that like he will still be relatively like hit the bad ball to the boundary. Same with Zach Crawley, which is one benefit that England have, and that's why they normally get off to such a good start. How will England win this match? They are poor than before, says AP. I mean, normally, I don't know if that's a serious question or not. Normally, they'll just have to bat very well. They'll have to try and match what the Aussies were able to do. And the benefit is with England's batting is they score quick enough that the test match result, theoretically on paper, this game can still go to either side. Because if we think about it, if England managed to get to about maybe halfway through day 3 and they have already got those 400 runs, theoretically, that Australia have got, and then Australia get themselves maybe 300 and something, England still have the time to chase that down as long as we don't have any weather delays. So Australia put themselves in the box seat, but I think because of the way that England play baseball and they are aggressive in the way that they play, we've still got a chance of any side getting a result here, which still keeps the draw heavily alive because, both sides, I would like to think if Australia batted well on this pitch, maybe England would be able to do the same. Different batting styles. Like I mentioned, though. Currently 6 minutes into that game between New Zealand and France as well for the under-20 championship. It is 0-0. New Zealand, few standout players in this under-20 side. Noah Hotham, sorry. He got a good opportunity for the Crusaders not too long ago. Also in there, Peter Lakai, he will be one to watch for the Kiwis in the future. And French 9 kicks the ball out of the New Zealand 9's hands. Is that allowed, says Hanoi? Normally, it depends if he makes contact with the hand, doesn't it? If you just get the ball, they normally go, yeah, that's all right. I've noticed that all of these guys out there on the field for the under-20 side all have better facial hair than me. So I feel like I should be slightly hurt. But the pitch looks even worse than before. It's becoming drier than before, says AP and AD Vlogs, which is why they will want to get their runs quickly, won't they? Because if they aren't able to get their runs quickly, England, then they'll end up in that scenario of maybe losing a few wickets on day 3. It's one of those pitches I don't think you want to be batting last in this test match. Like, it's rough, says AB. Yeah, there's quite a bit of grass cover on it. So it looked like there was a bit of seam movement every once in a while. Geez, that number 5's a big boy for France. Whoever's watching the New Zealand versus France game will know exactly who I'm talking about there, although it looks like he might have had his boot knocked off. And Cronulla 52, Dragon 16. I just gone full time, just saying. Says Nazi Williams. And of course, the old Warriors, they're going to be playing tomorrow as well, aren't they? Up against the Rabbitohs. We were actually considering covering that game on the channel, although that was before our copyright troubles. France have just scored, if anyone wondering. But yeah, we've ended up going all shy from commentating some rugby now due to getting that strike most recently. Like, we are going to be doing the whole of the Rugby Championship. That is one thing that we're hoping to guarantee. If we do get struck on the main channel, we're going to be doing it on the second channel as well. But yeah, not ideal. Right. They're talking about the fact that Australia bowled out for 416 now have themselves about a 20-minute window to be able to bowl at the English. Depending on how this session ends up finishing, will probably depend on how much of the next session we do cover on the channel. It will be starting at 12:40 a.m. New Zealand time. So a nice late start to that one. Okay, they're just talking about they're talking about the fact that some of this English side weren't actually playing in the last Ashes tour that was in England. But yeah, they're not too far away from making their way out onto the field, the Aussies and the English. And that's what I said earlier. Some of these 20s, I need to show ID, says Nazi Williams. And nice try, France. Ball not dropped. Yeah, it was a good back line. I'm going to quickly check something. Oops, this one and this one. It's interesting. There's like nowhere covering New Zealand versus France, which is really, I find it strange because they did the first, they did 4 games on the World Rugby YouTube channel and they did well those games. And now they've taken away all the licenses and they don't want to show the games for free anymore, which seems really weird. Do you think a French funded team based in New Caledonia joined the Super Comp? Says Hanoi. I mean, it's an idea that I don't think I've seen put out there before, but who knows? I mean, I know that they're talking about a Japanese side in the future, maybe getting a crack. Um, they're talking about maybe another, like in the future, another Pacific Island team, perhaps, if they do end up getting the support that's needed. Zach Crawley making his way out to the middle now alongside Ben Duckett. They will have a mini goal here, which is don't lose a wicket. 38 extras seems excessive for one inning, says Hillary. Yeah, they ended up with 12 no balls or something along those lines, which is to be honest, it's just not good enough, unfortunately. When you think about that, that's 12 opportunities that if they had got a wicket, the batsman would have got to stay, and they have done it before. We saw Stuart Broad get Usman Khawaja out off a no ball in that first test match at Edgbaston. Mitchell Stark, he will be bowling the first over of the English innings. They've got 20 minutes to try and stop themselves from losing an early wicket. That should be doable. 33 years of age, Mitchell Stark, already 310 wickets. His best is 6 for 50. Here we go. I knocked something off my desk. I couldn't reach it. Now Mitchell Stark, trailing by 416 here, the English. Like they've said, it's a different kind of pressure because they've gone from being the side that set the total. So they are just moving the sight screen here. The side that went from setting to now chasing. Crawley on strike. Stark the bowler. The first ball of the England innings. It's relatively straight, whipped off the pads there for Zach Crawley, and they managed to get themselves a single, little bit of a slip in the field there from Pat Cummins, but Crawley straight off the mark, saying the ball's skidding on quite nicely. How are England doing? Well, they have faced one delivery and they have not lost a wicket yet. So I would say doing quite well for now. Got themselves the early run. Their bowling was a lot better today, though, compared to what it was yesterday. Getting themselves the 5 quick fire wickets. Now find themselves batting. Steve Smith setting himself up here. The second slip roll. They've got the 3 slips, then also gully of Cam Green, the Aussies. Relatively straight delivery from Stark. He'll be getting them down there around that 140 mark straight away. Are they winning it overall? At the moment, they are underdogs to win this game, but that is just mainly because they haven't batted yet. They can get themselves around the 400 mark here. It could be anyone's contest. And also, depending on how quickly they score those runs, will depend on a little bit of what happens to that betting odds line. Currently, Steve Smith is one that people will be keeping an eye on. Got himself 110 runs for Australia off the bat. Punched off the back foot there from Duckett. And they will just take the one nicely fielded by Marnus Labuschagne. Both batsmen now off the mark. Ending up going for the 2. so far, but that's the thing. Australia, they won't be too worried about going for early runs here because if England are being slightly more aggressive, that will mean that Australia, yes, they may concede some runs, but they might also end up in the position of being able to get themselves a possible wicket or two. It's a nice straight delivery, squaring up Crawley a bit. It's going to be at least the single. I believe Marnus will be able to just keep it to the 2, and already 4 runs coming off this first over. And no real aggressive shots either from England, just playing the ball as it comes. That one for Crawley, he got straightened up a little bit. It didn't actually go whereabouts Crawley wanted it to. It looked like he was trying to actually work that one to the leg side. But instead, ended up getting it a little bit straighter. Second last ball of the over now for Mitchell Starc. Oh, that's swinging quite a bit. It's not given out. Swinging down leg is my prediction there for that one. I think it was just doing a little bit too much, but do they want to go upstairs for it? They've got 3 reviews. It looked close. I want to say it was just swinging down leg. Watching it now, says Connor, they decide not to go upstairs. The field for the AB's under 20 and French under 20 as muddy as it is. And they did actually play the last game between Ireland and Australia on that field. Yeah, just, or maybe doing a little bit too much off the seam and the swinging side of things. Might be umpire's call. Stark, he wanted the wicket, wasn't given it. Some decent speed, miles per over. He's already worked his way into that 90 miles per over region. Last ball of the over. Oh, it's a little bit wider outside off stump, quite pitched up, and that will be the end of the over. It'll be 4 for none. I'm sure that during this break we will get to see that replay of that last delivery. See what it does. Yep, just doing a little bit too much, missing the leg stump. It's close to clipping, but good decision from the umpire. I think they would have gone upstairs for England if they had been given out in that scenario. See straight away, Stark was pretty keen on it. Now Hazelwood, no, they've gone Cummins as the next changeover. That looks out, says Hanoi there. It's very close. Very close. Being close at the moment, New Zealand versus France. France are leading 7 points to 0 in that contest up against the Kiwis. Cummins, 52 matches, 225 wickets, and an average of 21.90. Stretching out the back here, Cummins. It's France number 5, Tuolangi's nephew. He's huge, isn't he? The French number 5. I saw him before, and yeah, he looks a lot, or he looks a little bit like a Will Skelton, or like a young Will Skelton. That's a nice drive forward. And they'll just take the one again, well fielded by Marnus Labuschagne. Duckett moves up to 2 now off 3. Crawley back on strike. England, even when they are playing a little bit more timidly, they are still able to find the runs out there on the park. And that's what they need to just keep on ticking over that scoreboard, put the Australian bowlers under pressure. They won't be too worried. Okay. 5 balls remaining in the over, they've just told Crawley. But yeah, they won't be too concerned about the exact amount of runs they're getting per over, but they'll be looking at the scoreboard maybe and saying we want to be trailing by less than 400 by the time we go into the break. Cummins, he's got 4 slips here. Straight delivery, Crawley blocks. Yeah, it's almost, Cam Green's not quite, it looks like he's almost set up more as a slip than a gully at this stage for Cummins bowling. Unless, of course, maybe the slips, it may just be that little bit further spread out. Crawley. He's been doing very well for England. It's not often you see an opening batsman keep his opening batsman role for the English for this long. I mean, we saw Burns, they stuck with him for a while, it wasn't working. Jason Roy didn't work out. Haseem Hameed, I think he was there for like 3 games and then they got rid of him. They've also had Bairstow as an opener. They changed that pretty quickly. Although people are still talking maybe he is an option as an opener in the future if they decide to keep him in the side and then have maybe someone like a Folkes as the wicket keeping option. Cummins did well with the bat. It's going to be a whip to the leg side, well fielded there. I think that was Nathan Lyon. Yes, it was. He got down to his left-hand side, managed just to cut it off and saved a certain boundary there. David Warner liked it that much. He's going to go over and give him a high five for it. Very well fielded. Well timed there from Crawley. Just got the hand out to it. Forward square legs where he is situated on the park. Don't they get hot in tie and jacket in the sun there, the crowd? I mean, sometimes, although normally, it gets a little bit hot in England, but then with the overcast conditions, sometimes it means that you're not getting that real heat of the sun, if that makes sense. But, there'd be a little bit of heat being felt out there by the men in the suit jackets and whatnot. Like Hazelwood and Nathan Lyon picked. Were they doing some Pictionary? They were kind of doing the going upstairs or something like that, maybe practicing for later on. Wonder if Nathan Lyon would ever become an umpire, seeing as he's been a player for so long. Once he does retire, perhaps another calling for the man. No run taken there off the final ball of Cummins over, and that will be 5 for none now for England. France currently in their game up against the under-20s. They are sitting 12-0. It was a Tuolangi who managed to get himself the try. At big number 5, who we were talking about a little bit earlier on. Duckett's dismissal versus seam. It's always outside of that off stump, pushing at that ball or chasing the slightly wider one. Which, I mean, is pretty impressive in a way that he hasn't been bowled or given LBW yet. But he doesn't like leaving that ball, so if they can get it just outside of that off stump, in that channel of indecision, as they like to call it. Now Mitchell Starc. That's just like that. He's got the edge. It's gone over the top of the cordon, though. I believe he almost tried to play it down there when he did see that it was short, but 145 kilometres an hour. That one's gone from Mitchell Starc, but it races to the boundary, the first one for England of this session. Yeah, that one was well and truly going over the top. I feel like that was a on purpose shot over the top. It's the way that he flicked it. Maybe didn't go exactly where he was aiming, but he knew what he wanted to do with it, and that was get it over the top of the cordon. Starc. Want to pitch that ball up just that little bit more. That's better. Managed just to find the edge. Nicely fielded by Usman Khawaja. That third slip. A bit softer with the way that he played that one rather than pushing at it. There's a little bit of swing on offer there for Mitchell Starc. Just that little bit. Not a huge amount. Just enough to get that one slightly moving sideways. Maybe similar to what we saw for Jimmy Anderson in that first innings, how he was actually very useful when it came to getting that ball to move. And then also with the seam movement added in as well. It's going to be nicely pushed to the man in the deep. Fielding at the deep point part of the ground. Looks like Travis Head, I believe. Now Crawley. 3 runs off 9 balls. What is that? Is that the spider cam or is that a drone? They don't actually have spider cam in England, do they? That I know of? I think that's just an Aussie thing. Maybe. 106. The English are trailing. Starkey's gone for 9 out of the 10 runs. That was a nice straight delivery, though. Work down the ground. Well fielded by Pat Cummins. Straight away, Crawley. The way that he is playing this, just always seems to find the middle with a bat, which is beneficial because as soon as you start finding those edges up against a bowler like Cummins or Stark, it can get very tricky. Sleepy, bro. Says Deegan, yeah, we're currently sitting almost 12 here in New Zealand, although I have been up a lot longer than I should have been. Got up nice and early today. Starting to feel it. But yeah, we've been working hard throughout this week. Probably our busiest work week outside of YouTube in quite some time. Oh, we tried to drive that one, Crawley. Doesn't quite get onto it the way that he would have liked. Now 1 ball remaining of the Stark over. And I think even though the session started about 5 minutes later, I think we still end up going to lunch at 12. It's just put down as a little bit of lost time. So I believe it's going to be a 12 a.m. New Zealand time lunch, which means we've got enough time for maybe one more after the next over, if they're very lucky. In fact, no, we've only got 3 minutes from now, and I think Cummins will take more than 3 minutes to bowl, although Australia will want to speed it along because they wouldn't mind seeing Stark have one last crack. Once again, another straight drive from Crawley. Doesn't time it, but because of the speed of Stark, oh, great work from Labuschagne. And just to get it back to Stark, but it will be 3 runs. As a lunchtime yet at it, not quite. Still another 1 or 2 overs remaining. Crawley prone to LBW. Pads keep batting, or pads keep getting caught in line. We can't bat to ball, says Deegan. But yeah, luckily for him so far, he's been getting the bat on it quite nicely. But yeah, as soon as he misses that ball, LBW or Bolt could be quite a possibility for him. Already England starting to do a little bit of pitch maintenance. They don't want another over after this, I think is the best way of describing it now. Both of them doing a little bit more. Cummins, not too fussed, just sitting there on his mark. He knows what they're doing. He's thinking to himself, well, if they want to wait for lunch, just needs to knock the stumps over. Make them wait for even less time. Oh, what a ball. Just outside of the off stumper, Crawley. Crawley plays and misses. Now going back down the middle. Tapping down the pitch. Yeah, this should be the last over, which is why Cummins, he's got 5 balls to try and get that wicket. That would give Australia a lot of confidence going into the next one. That was very close to the outside edge of Crawley. Solid from Crawley again. And one of the next England rugby players is at it. Says Connor there. Ex-England rugby players. Which one we talking, Connor? Because I'd assume there'd actually be quite a few there at the ground, if I'm not wrong. I know that we've seen a lot of ex-cricketers at the ground and ex-other sportsmen. 1 minute remaining of the session, I believe. I could have that timing slightly wrong due to the later start, like I mentioned, but I believe it is still the same session stop time. That is outside off stump again, left alone by Crawley. You definitely don't want to be the one who plays at the wrong ball in the last couple balls of a session. Just makes you feel terrible going into the lunch break. And the worst feeling is the fact that you know you're not the man who's going to make your way back out there afterwards. You know, your teammate's going to continue the innings, but you are not. Instead, you have to sit there and watch. Should mention for anyone wondering about the game between France and New Zealand in the Under-20s Championship. Currently, France leading that one 14 points to 0 over the Kiwis. Not looking too bad at all. Cummins, that one was swinging back in, so Crawley did have to play at it. Bit of swing. Got a smile on his face, Cummins. He liked that one. Crawley's done well to shut it down early. Yeah, that one was coming in quite nicely. I don't know whether or not it would have come in enough to hit the off stump, but still enough of movement in there. I don't know his name. Oh, okay. But one of the ex-English rugby players is at the game. I'm trying to think of who it would be. I know that there's a few that quite fond of a bit of cricket. Will be one ball left of this session, ladies and gentlemen. Will be the last ball that we do cover of the day. Got a nice early morning start tomorrow as well. But over the weekend, we're going to have a lot more of the Ashes. We're also going to have, I'm not actually sure what else we're going to have over this weekend. I think it's a slightly quieter weekend before we get into the Rugby Championship and everything along those lines next weekend, which should be very exciting. See New Zealand play Argentina, get to see South Africa take on the Aussies. Should be a very exciting one indeed. Last ball, left alone by Crawley, doesn't get enticed into playing. That'll be the end of a very eventful session. Australians, they did lose themselves 5 wickets, getting bowled out for 416. Then England, they faced 4 overs, 13 for none. So a decent enough start from the English for this one here. But I do thank you all very much for tuning in. Like I mentioned, we've got plenty more live streams that will be coming up in the near future. So be sure to keep an eye out for those ones. Anyone who is new, be sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. Hope you guys enjoy the under-20s rugby that we have got on later on tonight. We aren't covering it, but it is taking place in the world. And also the rest of the day of the Ashes. I think Tuolangi will have to be a prop eventually. Says Annoy, I don't know. He's a tall boy, though. So I feel like unless he's going to be like a Tamaiti Williams type, you know, I think he'll stick with Lock. They might just decide he's going to be like a Tolfa Fanua or a Will Skelton and just be a massive tank. Thanks, Hamish. Catch you later. Says Peter. Turn your face towards the sun. The shadows will fall behind you. Says Obi. Right. Okay. And he does the live on TV on Sky Sports. One of the English commentators, I would think. Nice one, Ovi. Oh, nice one, Obi. Is annoying. Also, Night Bro says Deegan there as well. But nonetheless, I do thank you all very much for tuning in. We'll see you all for the next one.